Hello, my name is Zmigrod, and I will be talking about work with Tim Vieira and Ryan Cotterell about decoding the k-best dependency trees in graph-based dependency parsing. First, a quick overview of graph-based dependency parsing. Dependency parsing is a task of predicting syntactic structure for a sentence, and graph-based dependency parsers work by converting a sentence into a dense graph where nodes are words and edges are possible dependency relations. We also add a root node to the sentence to mark the root of the dependency tree. We then compute scores for all edges in the form of an adjacency matrix, using a learned model such as a neural network. And finally, we use the Chu-Liu-Edmond or CLE algorithm to find the maximum weight directed spanning tree. However, most dependency parsing annotation schemes apply a special root constraint. The universal dependency guidelines state there should be just one node with the root dependency relation in every tree. Therefore, a dependency tree like this one is not a valid dependency tree as it has two outgoing edges from the root. Meanwhile, this tree has only one edge emanating from the root and so is a valid dependency tree. The CLE algorithm for decoding trees not subject to the root constraint can be made to run in quadratic time. A paper by Gabao and Tarjan in 1982 demonstrated that we can extend this algorithm to enforce the root constraint without any additional complexity. I will not go into further detail about these algorithms here, but those interested can check out our recent EMNLP paper for an exposition of both algorithms. So what about k-best decoding? From our exploration of the graph theory literature, only one algorithm due to Camerini et al. Has considered finding the k-best trees in a directed graph. The rarity of this algorithm continues to NLP, where we could only find 3 papers that use a k-best approach to graph-based dependency parsing. This is somewhat surprising given the prevalence of k-best methods in other tasks for NLP, including other forms of parsing, as well as the fact that Hall showed that we can get a 10% increase in unlabeled attachment score when using a k-best approach. Additionally, no algorithm has been presented for enforcing the root constraint in the k-best setting. Now why should this matter? Even though a state-of-the-art parser does a good job of learning the root constraint in the one best case, it does not learn the pattern sufficiently well to decode the k-best trees subject to the root constraint. Indeed, the root constraint violation rate increases by an average of 13 times and up to 44 times when decoding with the 1 best and 50 best trees. And so why is k-best graph-based dependency parsing not popular? We believe that one reason for the lack of its use is due to the complexity of understanding Camerini et al.'s algorithm. While our version of their algorithm is by no means simple, we hope that it is much more palatable. The intuition for the algorithm is simple. The second best tree is the first best tree of some subgraph of our original graph, and then the third best tree is the second best tree of another subgraph. And this pattern continues, and so that the kth best tree can be reduced to the second best tree of some other subgraph. So now how can we find the second best tree of a graph? We importantly know that there exists at least one edge of the best tree that is not in the second best tree, and we can find this edge by examining ancestor edges of the tree. Consider the fully connected graph whose best tree is given by the solid edges. The ancestor edges of the tree are those we can swap out with an edge in the tree without introducing a cycle. For example, the ancestor edges incoming to node 4 are highlighted in blue. Descendant edges are those edges not in the tree which are not ancestor edges. For example, the ancestor edge incoming to node 4 is highlighted in red. If we tried to swap out a descendant edge, you can see that we would get a cycle in the tree. It turns out that during our one best algorithm, we can examine the ancestor edges of the tree to determine the best edge to delete from the graph to find the second best tree. I will not discuss the details here due to time constraints, but the intuition and formal proof for why this works can be found in the paper. Finding the k-best tree is therefore a subgraph exploration problem. Upon decoding each tree, we find an edge that needs to be removed from the graph to get the next best tree. This decision splits as we may require the edge in the future. By maintaining a priority queue of these subgraphs, we can efficiently explore the space. Consider the following graph. When we find the best tree, highlighted in green, we can also find that the edge 4 to 3 is the best edge to remove to find the second best tree. From there, we know that the third best tree will either contain edge 4 to 3 or not. In this case it does not, and so we continue our exploration. However, we maintain the other case in our priority queue and see that it corresponds to the fifth best tree. The essence of our algorithm is the same as Camerini et al.'s. However, their approach first found the best tree and then found the best edge to remove to find the second best tree. This amounts to doing unnecessary work, as these can be done together. Not only did this lead to a simpler proof of correctness, but also to a constant time speedup of around 1.4 when using our algorithm. We also provide a novel extension to enforce the root constraint on the k-best algorithm. Consider the best tree subject to the root constraint, once again highlighted in green. It will have one edge emanating from the root. Then the second best tree subject to the root constraint will either have the same root edge or a different one. We can therefore use the same k-best algorithm, restricting our graph to the same root edge, and lazily adding the best tree with a new root edge as needed. Looking at the same example graph, this time with the best tree subject to the root constraint, we see that we cannot find another tree with the same root edge to use, and so we use a new root edge. We thus look to see if a third root edge exists, which it does not in our example. Therefore, we continue with the regular k-best algorithm with the root edge to node 2 until we cannot generate any more trees. Thank you very much for listening. Our paper can be found using this QR code and our code is publicly available on GitHub.